Hey all, and thank you for tuning in to ASC's Coach's Couch podcast. Today's guest will be Nicolas Moskaluk, who's a school teacher and a current coach who's just completed his C license. Today he'll be sharing his journey, not only as a coach but as a teacher, and how he combines both of them, not only from an education standpoint but how he deals and relates to players. Let's jump into it. Let's enjoy. Hello, is that Nick?
Hey, Matt. How's...
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, fantastic. You're clear as we would say in England, clear as mud.
Oh, I love it, man. Okay, all right, okay.
Good. So, Nick, firstly, thank you on our ASCE Coaches Couch podcast. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. You're always someone that I'm chatting with and getting to know more and getting your thoughts on coaching and all that.
Fantastic. So this is going to be a great journey, not only for myself, but for obviously everyone who's going to be listening to this. So again, thank you. So we'll dive in. So Nick, do you want to just tell us briefly what it is you do right now before we actually start getting into the coaching portion?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name's Nick Moskaluk. I am a teacher with the Calgary Board of Education. I'm in my 10th year of teaching, and I went to University of Alberta. Before that, I was at Red Deer College, where I played 3 years of collegiate soccer under Steve Fullerton and Doug Holloway. And before that, born and raised in Calgary, went to William Aberhart High School there, won a city championship, and grew up in the Calgary Blizzards soccer program.
Fantastic. I love that. Great insight to your journey so far, where you started and where you're at a little bit. So which is great. So it brings me into the first segment of this podcast here, which is how did you get into coaching?
Well, I've always had really great coaches. I've had a couple not so great, like we all have, and I think that's something that I think about now as a coach. And I think no matter who I had, I always I learned something from them, kind of good or bad. Growing up, I coached in soccer camps, and I helped out with when I was in high school. I coached some teams with Blizzard, younger teams, and then just continuing working at soccer and sport camps, and just started taking it way more seriously once I actually became a teacher. I found that after I was kind of done with college soccer, you pour yourself into something so much, and I really needed a break. And honestly, I took a long break away from soccer where I appreciated it. I loved watching it, but I wasn't doing anything with it. And then around my second or third year of teaching, I found that I was getting into this funk at work where there was no work-life balance. It was just work, and then I would go home and I would mark, or I would create tasks, or I would do report cards or whatever. And it was just, I didn't have that work-life balance. And one of my colleagues was like, listen, Nick, you gotta get back into something that you're passionate about that isn't school. And so her brother-in-law was the athletic director at Sir Winston Churchill High School, which was close to where I was teaching. And she was like, they said that the coach that's already there would love some help. And I ended up coaching there for 5 or 6 years. And I loved the challenge of high school soccer. And I know sometimes high school soccer kind of doesn't get taken as seriously as club. It is different, but it was so concentrated. And the fact that you get a team together, gelling very quickly and with a very mission-focused orientation, I loved that. And I always thought back to in high school, and I loved my time in high school soccer, and it was just like, it was different than club. You get a good mix of players from different teams. There's no swapping between clubs. You have the players that you have in front of you, and that's the beautiful challenge of high school soccer, is that who you have is who you have, and you have to make that work. And it's a really unique setting, and that's one of the reasons that I loved coaching at the high school level. And so we ended up doing that for 5 or 6 years. And another thing that I loved about it was that you only have those players for maybe 2 or 3 years. Like, if they enter the team at grade 10, then the most you'll have is 3 years with them. And so there's something actually really challenging and beautiful about, like, you have a time limit with these kids. Whereas I think with club, as unique as that situation is, you could have a team from like U10 and take that and be with that team all the way up to, under 18, under 19, and you can be constantly, long distance focused. Whereas with high school, it was concentrated. You had 10 games, you had them for a few years, and you needed to build the identity really quickly, rather than what you see with clubs. So that's kind of where my coaching journey began. When I showed up at Churchill, there was definitely some ups and downs, but by the end of it, I think in year 6, we took them to the city championship, which was really cool to see that growth within 6 years with 2 different cycles of high school kids. So,
Oh, fantastic, Nick. Listening to you there, and I can relate it myself, with having that break. So it was great, and especially people listening to this. Sometimes we get so in the mix of doing and forget to sometimes take that break, recharge,
yeah.
focus on our family life, our social life, and that kind of thing. So it was great that you actually shared that part and brought it up. You self-reflected, and then obviously, another thing that stood out to me there with you talking was the whole challenge, which was, again, fantastic. You were clear on what it brought to you from the get-go, and obviously being in the high school environment, and you obviously talked to some points there.
Yeah.
But again, I thought that was very well put, and again, things that we can all, and if we don't do it, something that we can possibly reflect on and say, hey, if I do recharge, I'll come back fresher, hungrier.
Yeah.
And if I am coaching right now, what am I getting out of coaching personally, me, before I start looking at the players?
Oh, absolutely.
So fantastic. I really love that, and thanks for sharing that. So let me ask another question. And what experiences have shaped your view on the game and coaching youth right now on your journey, Nick?
I think the way that I was coached, and seeing a few different types of coaches, I had coaches that understood the importance of different parts of the game, and bringing those together has really helped me with my approach. I think because I personally really had to work hard, I can understand, maybe struggle a little bit better than someone who is like, maybe quote unquote naturally gifted. I think with younger players, I know that touch is so important, and creating a base for when they get older, and kids having their feet on the ball and playing the game, that is so critical. But when I work with high school kids, or those kids that are either 1 or 2 years away from university or college soccer, or they're going into university ball next fall, I understand that fitness and that athleticism is the difference between playing university or college soccer. And because I was there, like, I was a good player, I was decent, I could do certain things. Got to that next level, I knew that it was fitness, it was athleticism was going to make the difference. Could you minute 1 to minute 90, could you run as hard and as fast from start to finish? And you know, I've had a few kids that I've coached at high school go on to play university soccer, and they're like, yeah, you were right. Like, everyone's good. Everyone is good. Everyone can play with the ball. But can I run a 19-minute 20 or 5? Or can I, you know, like, what are you doing away from soccer? So I think for me, understanding the different phases in my own journey, when I was younger, I needed to be touching the ball. That was the only way I was going to improve. And then as I got older, I started seeing like, okay, the playing field is kind of leveling out. There's definitely like your outliers. Some are really good and some are like not so good. How are you going to differentiate within that middle? And for me, understanding that athleticism and fitness at that high school level is your next step. I think also right before I went to my first training camp at Red Deer College, I had a really amazing opportunity to go to a training camp for 2 weeks with a 4th division club in Germany. And I really didn't know what to expect. I was kind of just going for the experience. I really didn't think anything would come of it. And actually nothing did, except that I really saw how good even guys in the 4th division in Germany are. And it really helped bring some perspective to me to be like, okay, there's good. And then there's even this, and then there's above that. And then there's above that. So for me as a coach, I think just seeing that and seeing that environment and seeing how dedicated guys are, even at like that level. And some people might laugh like, oh, the 4th division in Germany. Okay. It is very physical. It's fast and it's good. So for me as a coach, when I'm working with those high school kids and even those kind of junior high age kids, and you hear parents say or kids say certain things, and it's like, okay, here's my perspective and here's my experience. And I think that's also helped me like kind of create or help bring clarity to like, okay, this is what you need to do. Because even if you want to get to this level, this is what needs to happen. And again, for me, that fitness part was huge. I think passing is I always tell kids too, there's a lot of things you can do on the field and you can hide. You can hide the fact that maybe you're not a goal scorer. You can hide the fact that maybe you're not even the fittest. You can hide the fact that maybe you can't head the ball like the best, or maybe your positioning's a little off. But if you can't pass the ball, everyone watching knows that. And your teammates know it. The other team knows it. The people watching know it. So for me, even if I wasn't the best at a lot of things, I knew I needed to be a good passer and mover of the ball for me. So that's been my experience, kind of what shaped me and my view on coaching with my own experience.
Fantastic, Nick. And you know, one of the things again, as I'm here listening, and even as our listeners listen to this, is you had a clear vision of what it was the players needed, which is huge, because not everyone goes into it with that mindset, that lens. So again, it's so great to hear that from you as a coach, knowing you had an idea of what the players needed. So that would make me go into my next question here, which is great. You've obviously identified what the players needed. What made you then decide that you needed to go do your coaching licenses?
Well, I think like many coaches, they have kids who are playing the game, and I wanted to get my badges started before my kids were actually in it. So I have a 2-year-old who is already just kicking the ball all over the place. And I didn't want to, I guess for me, I wanted to get started earlier before I was like in it with my kids. I also, you know, I do have goals. I mean, I would love to continue coaching at that high school level. I really like that kind of that 15 to 17. I'd love to, you know, eventually, you know, maybe even get into the college ranks, the university ranks, like many other people would. but it starts with your badges. And I think actually for me, because I'm a teacher, I've played at a, I would say I've played at a pretty decent level, whether with youth or with at college. I think I had for a long time, I had almost like this air that like, oh, well, I'm a teacher. I have a degree in physical education. I know what I'm doing. I've played at a decent level. And it wasn't until I decided to take the C license that I saw like, where am I actually at? Right. And like, how do I, like, I also, what do I do to challenge myself? Like every day as a teacher, I ask my kids to take risks and take challenges and take things on, but what am I doing? So I wanted to challenge to see how I could do, because I really had no idea what to expect. I mean, I think I had an idea, but I wasn't totally sure. And how would I compare to other people, and what could I learn? And the C license, there's so much I still have to learn and strengthen, but the C license really helped me understand, like, okay, you don't need to overdo it. I think before, sessions would be very drill specific and I would bounce around a lot, but now I see the importance of like solve, if that makes sense. So like have a theme and work on and taking a simpler, more organic approach and diving deeper into maybe, that old saying, less is more, and doing less, but diving deeper into it. And actually stuff that I would do in a classroom if I was teaching math, where it's like, I'm not just going to throw all this work at them. I'm actually going to just dive deeper into the conceptual understanding. And I think the gag method has really helped me learn even more within the classroom. Like there were things in the C license that, you would talk about or the other coaches would talk about. And I'm like, oh, that's actually, I need to take that back into the classroom. And so there was so much that I think I learned that I'm like, okay, now we need to do more. And I don't know, I think for me, it was a challenge. And then once we were actually into it, there was 4 really outstanding I mean, obviously you're there, these people really well, but there's 4 of probably the top coaches in Alberta in this class. And I forgot what it was like to go through like sessions with like elite coaches that are sessions and then teaching other people. And actually I had a blast doing the practices that they were running. I left and it made me actually want to like get more into it, because it was just, we had fun, Matt. We had a great weekend together. And
Yeah. And oh my word, I'm just like I got goosebumps just listening to you, because not only listening to you, but as you were talking, I was going back to my own journey and going into my first class, and you just touched on so many things that I could relate to. Even now being an educator, I still always, one, look at it from the lens of a learner, but 2, go back to my own journey as well. And everything you were talking about there, where you went into it and you see where you're at. What can you grab from this? What are you learning as you're going through with it? What can you take and now implement later on, not only in the soccer world, but outside of that, as you mentioned, in the classroom? So again, it's fantastic, because it's always good to hear the benefits of courses, right? People, on the outside who possibly haven't had the opportunity to come in a course. It's always, sometimes we hear, well, it's just going to be talking about X's and O's. And someone who's been through a course, everything that you're talking about here is far, far removed from just the X and O's.
It was, right? And like, I think that was one of the things that I was like, okay, what do I need to prep for? Like, what drills should I remember that I really liked? And it wasn't like that. And even, one thing that I always tell kids, and even when I go to PD sessions with teachers, is listen, if you can take one thing away, and I know that might sound really small, but if you can take one thing away and then you really improve with that one thing, that's huge. I mean, even when we look back to the C license that I did with you, one of the things that really stuck with me was focusing on one team and managing the other. And that was so foreign to me. I mean, it was so natural to you, but I caught myself not doing that because I saw something the other team was doing. But it's like, okay, wait, hold on. We need to be more concentrated and focus on one team and manage the other. And that's hard to do when it's like, hey, here's a new thing, but it's going to work. And it does, because I took it into my next season with my boys, and I was able to focus more directly with kids that I needed to. And the other kids caught on to it without even I never told them that I was doing that, but they saw it, they knew it, and it improved everyone. And it's really, so for me, that's what those licensing courses can do, is like, you know, I'm already excited about the B license. Okay. Like, what am I going to take away from that one?
Yeah. Oh, some nuggets there, as I put it, Nick. Thank you. Like I said, got goosebumps, but it's great, and I love the mindset that you possess, and the learning that comes with it. Because again, I think, you know, for everyone listening on this, it's not daunting. There's an environment there of the hands are open. We're here to help and guide you, even though it might be a big group. We're there to help you individually on your journey within this course. So again, some great nuggets that you're giving us here, Nick, which is fantastic. So here's a question for you then, Nick, because we've kind of got a great sense of your mindset. How does Nick self-reflect?
How do I self-reflect? I think one thing that I've tried to do in the last season that I was coaching was, I had an assistant coach who knows soccer. He's pretty good. Really awesome guy, works well with the kids, but I asked him to really watch me. Like, I would run the sessions, and then I wouldn't tell him what I was going to do. I would say, okay, I want you to see what you notice about what I do. And I want you to see if things I do stand out. And then I want you to ask me why, or whatever. And so, he would take notes, and then he would ask questions, and then he would point out, like, hey, you use the same size field the whole session. Like, it never really changed. Why'd you do that? Oh, okay, well, here's why. This is why we want to do this. Or even with the point that I made before with, like, you're going to manage one team and focus on the other. And I think having someone that is going to question you, whether it's the kids. I mean, I think we do want to be a little bit careful with the kids. I think there can be very strong, good dialogue with kids. But I think having kind of a partner or kind of a co-teacher, co-coach, taking notes, asking questions. Why are you doing this? What do you think we need to do next? Why do you think that didn't go well? What do you think we did do well? I think sometimes we get very in our own heads as coaches that we just own everything, when really that isn't the case. That needs to be a team effort, even in reflection. When I was doing my C license videos, my team partner videoed them. And then, you know, he even pointed things out after that, like, I'm not going to see because he's watching. So I think self-reflection, I think, is an interesting term, because it seems like we're doing it alone, but self-reflecting is well. I mean, I remember one time I subbed a kid off. He needed to come off. It just wasn't going well. I just could tell his mind wasn't there. And as he was coming off the field, my assistant coach, my co-coach, was like, "What are you going to say to him?" And I was like, I actually am not really sure, because I don't really know what. And then it just led to a very just casual, like, organic conversation. But even, like, asking, what am I going to say to this kid before that? I don't know, because I wasn't even thinking what I was going to say. but having that one person that kind of questions and is looking for that mindset of improve is really key, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and again, I love everything you've talked about there, because you're right. We possibly see the word self-reflect and think it's just about how can we self-reflect on ourselves, when there's many ways, and you've shared a great way out there with your assistant, your co-coaches, having that
Yeah.
dialogue, questioning you, looking at you from a different lens, and then possibly sharing. Which again comes with that mindset of trust
Yeah.
and open to receiving that, right? Which is because we can think it and possibly see it through our own lens, but seeing it from someone else that we're working with, we trust, and that empowers them as well, knowing that, hey, I'm
Yeah.
actually working. I'm not just here to
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
down cones. I'm here to grow with this coach. So I love that, Nick, because the fact that you're self-reflecting, you've also empowered somebody else on their journey while you're self-reflecting on your own.
I think
Yeah.
also about things that I distinctly remember and why I remember them as a player. You know, I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about this the other day, and when I was playing at RDC, Steve Fullerton, who and Doug Holloway, they were both two of the best coaches I've ever worked with. Steve came up to me, who I love and respect greatly. He's a good friend now. We chat all the time. He came up to me one day after a really good practice, and he just told me nicely. He just told me how nicely I strike the ball, how well I pass the ball, and that has
Mm-hmm.
always stayed with me because it was so specific. He really noticed what I was doing. It wasn't like, oh, good job, hard work today. That doesn't mean anything. I
Mm-hmm.
still, however many years later, I still think about that impact, that one comment that Steve had, and we had lots of great moments. But for him to just say, like, oh man, you just strike the ball so nicely. And I was like, and it wasn't about stroking my ego or making me feel good. It was just like, no, I see those little things that you're doing. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
can have that impact with our kids where they can hold on to those memories for forever, for one great comment, one piece of great feedback. And maybe it's not even like, it doesn't need to be ego stroking, but I remember a lot
Yeah.
of tough conversations, and people had those tough conversations with me because they cared about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Massive. And that stems into our next question, which was going to be, how do you motivate players? You as a coach, how do you motivate players? And obviously you've talked a bit. Do you want to add
Yeah, I
more
mean,
on that? Now
yeah,
the
yeah.
questions come out. Yeah.
I think the kids have to know that we care. They need to know that we
Yeah.
care about them. We care about our appearance. We care about treating how we treat others. But that if I care and take it seriously, that hopefully so will the kids. And I think maybe even saying, maybe I think we all probably, but knowing that we actually care, whether it's about who they are as people, care about our mission, care about how I want them to become decent human beings. I want them to get an education. I want them to find that thing in life that they're passionate about. And I think if they see my passion and that
Yeah.
I care, like I take this seriously, and we're going to treat what we do as a professional organization,
Yeah.
even if it's a high school soccer team, if I treat it like it's a professional team, then there will be more motivation, intrinsic motivation on their
Yeah.
part. And that's and it's not about like winning or losing. Like, we all want to win. Like, that's not even a question. That shouldn't even be part of the discussion when
Yeah.
we're talking about motivating, because that shouldn't even be said. If you don't want to win, then, like, okay, there's the door. But what
Yeah.
is that deeper level of motivation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Love it. It's going, as you mentioned earlier, even with your own class, going deeper and and thinking about that learner and the actual person, not the athlete, right?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Yeah, I love that, Nick. So, because this will be an interesting one. You know, someone's starting their journey, whether they're starting at U6 or they're coming in at the U13 level.
Yeah.
What would be some tips that you would advise or share with someone who's just starting their journey, and same thing, they're not working in the game full time,
Yeah.
they're coming from work and possibly coaching in the evenings. What would be some of the things you would share from your journey so far? Because you've got plenty more chapters to come, and I'm excited to see that. But
Yeah.
what's something you would share?
I think it's important to enter that mindset of improve, because we don't know it all. Like, I don't know it all. You don't know it all. We're all still learning. And
Yeah.
you honestly, you never will, right? But that's okay, because that is the journey, right? And the struggle is the journey. I think it's important to find a coach that you really respect, whether it's locally or professionally. I think you should kind of have both. I think to learn how they do things, why do they do things, observe. As coaches, we need to learn what our identity is going to be and understand how we can be effective in that approach. How do you want the game to be played? And not even from a tactical aspect, but how do you want your players to carry themselves and grow as human beings? I stay in touch with a lot of the boys that I've coached, and honestly, I get more excited about hearing that they've graduated or they're off into university or college and they got into that program that they really wanted to, or they're traveling, or even some of them getting to the point found their life partner, and getting those emails like saying, hey, we've been together for 3 years now, and it's like that's what I want. Like, hey, I'm volunteering with this organization, can you come to our fundraiser? And it's like, that's what I want. I want soccer and sport to be a springboard to make better human beings for our society. And follow those people that do that. Is like, make sure your sessions are meaningful and have fun. There will be so much more buy-in from your teams and your players if they're having fun. Like, I always I think back to the C license and some of the drills that you guys ran, and I was like, oh man, I remember that one. I remember that one from like way back, like maybe it was like Thomas Niendorf or Nick Kolev running this drill, and I haven't done that drill since I was 13. I love that one. And then what's the reason you're doing it? I think sometimes I've, as I'm walking, taking the dog out or going out to the park with Cole, and I see practices and I'm like, do you know why you're doing that? Yeah. Like, what do you know why you're doing that? And if you don't, that's okay. Like, again, we don't know it all, but having that reason that you're doing something, and not just like, oh, well, I saw this video of blank doing this, so I'm going to do that too. And maybe that works. And honestly, I use there's so many amazing resources out there. And if it works, do it. I'm not trying to dump on that, but make sure that has a purpose and a reason. Yeah. Otherwise the kids will see that. They'll see through it, and they won't commit like you want them to. Yeah. But I'm giving you permission to have fun. It's supposed to be fun. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Because again, I've enjoyed listening to every word you've mentioned, and I know our listeners are going to be as well. And the big thing about it, Nick, is everything you're talking about is our reality. We're not talking about anything in the Premier League, and that's not our reality. Everything you've mentioned on this call has been our reality, and I love that, because people can relate when it's something that they're accustomed to, or they know they're going to be accustomed to, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Well, I just thank you so much for having I hope we can bring some value to people listening, and and just help. I think coaching, like teaching, is a community where we need to be constantly helping each other.
Yeah, totally. It's one big family. As I always say, we might have different badges on our chests,
Yeah,
but we're part of the same family no matter where we are.
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So, Nick, I do want to thank you. I'm so excited to see these other chapters in your life.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
A lot of the content you've shared, we can hear the passion in your voice. That your mindset is phenomenal, and we can all learn from that. So again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, for everything you do, and just go and crush it, and keep failing and getting back up, and keep going. That's it, man. It's all about growth mindset.
Love it. We'll definitely end it on that one. Growth mindset. Fantastic. So have a great day, Nick. Stay safe. I know we're in a corona uncertainty right now, but again, thank you for putting in the time for this podcast.
Absolutely. You have a good day, Matt.
Okay, thanks, man.